to the show that never ends. So glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. Ooh, I want to get just the right ambiance. This stream will be on Germanic AstroTheology and Baphomet. And it is good that we are here. Now, I have to give a shout out to this website for putting much of this together, so I didn't have to. And that would namely be GermanicMythology.com. An attempt to recover old heathen constellations of Northern Europe. Now, I am showing this forth to show people that not only were the Judeo-Christian, therefore Islamic mythologies built upon astral myth stemming from Hellenistic, Egyptian, Syrian, even Vedic traditions. Just as these stories were put in the heavens and taken from the heavens, they were not seen as literal. So I recommend you to go to GermanicMythology.com, especially under astronomy / GermanicAstrology.html. Heathen stars stood above their heads, painted with ominous staves. Thank you, Peter Kruger, for your work. Hligesglaf. So we got our shit. Travel Defender, thank you for being here. Okay, Capricorn, known as Heimdallr, the god with the wet back. And I'm just gonna breeze through this just to show you. Look into it on your own. That'd be great. Fomalhaut. Fomalhaut is one of the brightest stars in the constellation Pisces, also known as the Eye of Odin. Mjolnir, Thor's short-handled hammer, a constellation. Star maidens of the Eddas, Virgo and Astrea. Loki and the salmon. It's like, hey, this story is pretty freaking crazy. Yeah, because it has to do with Loki the salmon, the waterfall, the house with 4 doors and the net. Thor's iron gloves, Jarglofar, or Jarngripper. Ophiuchus and Loki bound, the serpent bearer. The serpent normally being the crooked serpent of the Milky Way that runs from the South Pole to the North Pole. Here we have Scorpio that takes us into winter, known as the Fenris Wolf, the Hound of Hell. It takes us into the underworld. And the River of Poison, Scorpio and its poison. Okupor, Thor's chariot and the goat team. None other than Capricorn. Woland, Valen Starsmith, the kneeling man, the virgin with the golden ring. Freyr's attributes, the boar of Goldenbursty and Skildebardener, and the finest ship of all. The ship is always related to the Argo ship, Jason and the Argonauts, which is the same as Noah's Ark. And next to it is the constellation Columba, which is the dove that's sent out from the Ark. Columbia. hearkening to America as being the new world founded by the Abrahamic faith. Draupnir in the ring of Andvari, Brising Saman, Freya and her necklace, Asgard's wall, the Milky Way. The Milky Way has so much myth. If you've ever gone to the night sky in a place that doesn't have too much light pollution, you will see the Milky Way. It looks like a rip in the heavens, a trail of light, a pathway. Often this pathway was thought to be where souls were on their way to heaven who passed, or it's seen as a wall that divides something between something, or it's seen as, I think it might be the wall that divides the left and the right hemisphere of our brain, because as without, so within, which harkens to Baphomet. So the Milky Way galaxy in mythology. I mean, I hate to point to Wikipedia, but it's a place to start where you want the Great Sky River. So the Ganges from India, the Milky Way was known as the Ethiopian, the Aether, Ganges. I think eighth Ganges. Ethiopia comes from that etymology. It was seen as somebody who stole something and left something behind, like a trail, like a bread trail crumb. Path of the Thieves, stealing, likened to Phaeton, stealing fire, the chariot from the gods, and that was what he ripped in the sky. Interesting. Corn is attested to from the Cherokee, as well as ancient Egypt. Isis ripped the corn, and it was the corn ears. Eastern Asia likened it to a flag of magpies and crows, because the birds actually use it as a way to navigate through the skies. In Egyptian mythology, the Milky Way was considered a pool of cow's milk. The Milky Way was deified as fertility goddess by the name Bat. Later, Hathor, who was Taurus, the bull, Ba'at, and we have Hathor, who milks the young Horus, and then Horus was ripped away from her teat, funny word, and that milk that spilled was known as the Milky Way. Among the Finns, Estonians, and related peoples, it was called the Pathway of the Birds. They observed that migratory birds used the galaxy as a guideline to travel south, where they believed Lintukoto, the bird home, was. Well, it turns out they were onto something, because the migratory birds use the Milky Way as a guide to travel to warmer southern lands during the winter. In Enuma Elish, coming from the Babylonian epic, it was the severed tail of Tiamat, the dragon, who Marduk slayed, the crooked serpent who was cut up into 7 pieces. Babylonian national god. They had its Sumerian had it slayed by Enlil before Marduk. Greek and Roman. Heracles, later Hercules, when he was a baby, suckling the tit of Hera to become immortal. The milk that squirts out from the Milky Way. Also, Moloch, milk comes from the same word that milk comes from. The Lord of the milk, the Lord of the bull that they sacrifice children to. And the same with Saturn, Kronos, Rhea, Ops. The pantheon from Greek and Rome. Jupiter now, or Zeus, sucking at the teat. Saturn asked her to nurse the child once more before he swallowed it, the rock wrapped in stone, and the milk that spilled out of her nipple became the Milky Way. Hindu and the Bhagavata Purana, who I think were the most actually knowledgeable, because they're responsible for the Proto-Indo-European language. It goes back to the Vedas and Sanskrit. And I think they were white. In the Hindu collection of stories called Bhagavata Purana, all the visible stars and planets moving through space are likened to a dolphin that swims through water, and the heavens are called Sisumara Kakra, the dolphin disk. The Milky Way forms the abdomen of the dolphin and is called Akasanganga, which means the Ganges River of the sky, such as it is the Nile River of the sky. In Irish mythology, which when I looked into Irish mythology, I said, oh my goodness, the only way to make sense out of any of these crazy ass freaking stories is if they were written in the heavens. And then, after learning that, I came across Norse mythology. How do I make sense of any of this? Turns out it was all built upon the heavenly, astronomical, astrological movements, notions, relations, just as our Old Testament and New Testament was. In Hungarian mythology, Saba, the mythical son of Attila the Hun, who may or may have not existed, and where we get the name Hungarians from, perhaps, is supposed to ride down the Milky Way with this Szekels, which I think is this anyways, it's called the Road of the Warriors. It's always likened to a way, a passageway. And the stars are sparks from their horseshoes. That's kind of precious. The Maori, who are freaking crazy, they thought the front and the back in the canoe are Orion and Scorpius, while the Southern Cross is an anchor. And that would be a ship that takes up half of the freaking sky. That's a big ass ship. And the front and the back of the canoe, Orion, the face of a man, the tail of a Scorpio or a snake. The people from Australia thought it was a river in the sky world, and the lights along it, because it's a cluster of stars, they said was a number of campfires. Oh, how beautiful is that? Further south, the band of stars that comprise the Milky Way are seen as thousands of flying foxes carrying away a dancer known as Prigi. Well, that's great imagination. But as we could see, I hope this is working, because otherwise I'm just talking to me. In Irish mythology, the name of the Milky Way was Bealach Nambolfian, Way of the White Cow. Another cow reference, the cow of Taurus, because the Milky Way splits to the right, and it goes to Cancer right before Leo, the lion, which I think is where they get the head of the lion and the tail of a snake from as Abraxas. But we also get the birth passage of Hathor or Isis, nursing, milking Horus. And then to the left of Cancer, we have the twins of Gemini, which are the arc of Hermes or Mercury, which are the two twin pillars, which that stream comes through, that crooked serpent. And then it ends out through the constellations of Capricorn, Sagittarius, and Scorpio. The tail of the Scorpio being in the Milky Way. Other names, the stripe of the sky. In Hebrew, it's known as a fiery stripe. It's also where we get the name, the fancy car, a Maserati, comes from Maseroth, which is a Hebrew word for the constellations or the Milky Way band. It's likened to a band, a belt, a shield, a stitch, a break, a chasm, a wall, a pathway. A freaking, if you go into a place that doesn't have that much light, and you'll see this amazing thing called the Milky Way. Irbal Nalark Bane, the white mare's tail, the lair Bane, white mare, is believed to be a relic of a sovereignty goddess, and processions featuring a white hobby horse, Pegasus, who is in the northern constellation near Cancer. It's flying because it's on like a bird that's flying through, it uses this current to fly, and you only see the head of it, which is why they used to use the head of a horse on a Viking ship, and then the mast would be a square, and the square is the square that is in the constellation Pegasus. The body of it looks like a square. It's all freaking the stars. Nobody is commenting because I don't think it's working, but we'll go into Baphomet. The original name of the word comes from Muhammad. Could you believe it? Muhammad. There's alternative etymologies, but the first one is that it comes from Mohammed. The name Baphomet came into popular English usage in the 19th century during debate and speculation. The name of Baphomet was an old French corruption of the name Mohammed. Holy Knights of Templar. Call of the people. But it also has a bunch of other things. Not to be confused with Behemoth, or should we not confuse it with Behemoth? Ba is a soul, and also Baal is Lord. Foe of the Phoenicians. Met or Moth or Moot. Met. Like mind. Let's look into this one. Baphomet is a deity allegedly worshipped by the Knights Templar that subsequently became incorporated into various occult and Western esoteric traditions. The name Baphomet appeared in trial transcripts for the Inquisition of the Knights of Templar starting in 1307. It's a symbol of balance in various occult and mystical traditions. As above, so below. Solve, which is dissolve, and coagula, which is coagulate. It, since 1856, has been associated with the Sabbatic goat of the Sabbath, of Saturn, Satan, Capricorn. The equilibrium of opposites, half human, half male, good, evil, representing the goal of perfect social order. It's almost as if Wikipedia is praising this. I mean, I don't believe in a literal Satan, but here's the symbol. The name Baphomet appeared in July 1098 in a letter about the siege of Antioch by the crusader Anselm of Ribamont. Sequenti di aurora apparente altis vocibus Baphomet invocavent et nos Deum nostrum in cordibus nostris deprecantes impetum vacantes et ios demuris cavantes omnis expulimus. As the next day dawned, they, the inhabitants of Antioch, called loudly upon Baphomet, and we prayed silently in our hearts to God. Then we attacked and forced all of them outside the city walls. Raymond of Aguilers, a chronicle of the First Crusade, reports that the troubadours used the term Baphomet for Muhammad. Baphomet with an F rather than a PH. For Muhammad. And Baphomaria for a mosque, like the dwelling place of Bafu. Bafungal! Baphomet was allegedly worshipped as a deity by the medieval Order of the Knights Templar, the Knights of the Temple of Solomon, most often cryptos or useful goy. The Inquisition leveled against the Templars, heresy, homosexual relations, spitting and urinating on the cross, and sodomy. Most of them were dubious, were they? I mean, I don't give a shit about the cross, and Jesus is a total hoax anyways, but, and here's what Wikipedia said. Most of them were dubious, as they were the same charges that were leveled against the Cathars. That's not a reason to think that it was dubious. Wikipedia. Many of King Philip's enemies, well, I mean, he had earlier kidnapped Pope Boniface the VIII. Let's look into him. I bet he was horrible. All these popes were horrible people. So this pope was charged with nearly identical offenses. Malcolm Barber observes that historians, quote, find it difficult to accept that an affair of such enormity rests upon total fabrication. The Kynon Parchment suggests that the Templars did indeed spit on the cross, but they were intended to simulate the kind of humiliation and torture that a crusader might be subjected to if to be captured by the Saracens, where they were taught how to commit apostasy with the mind only and not the heart, how to be cryptos. Michael Haig suggests that worship of Baphomet did indeed form part of a Templar initiation rite, because it's showing the real happenstance and creation of this person of Jesus. They love to hate him because he's an idol that is used to test the chosen and used to mislead the goyim. The indictment, acte d'accusation, published by the court of Rome, set forth that in all the provinces they had idols, that is to say, heads, some of which had 3 faces. That's usually likened to Janus, or the two-headed god, or the two-headed eagle, the god or goddess of the pathway of decisions, of the past, the now, and the future. Which is why we have the American eagle and all of these other eagles as emblems of empires that look to the left or to its right, which is looking to the past. And controlling the past, controlling the history, is done by those who control the now, and therefore they control the future. Sometimes is worshipped as a human skull. There is a headless constellation in the sky that speaks the word of God. Headless constellation. Horse head, no. The head constellation that gives oracles. Cepheus, no, not Cepheus. Serpent caput. Serpent head. Perseus holds the head of Medusa. And from the right eye, we get Algul, which is a ghoulish alcohol spirit star, which is a demon. Nothing good happens when you have anything close to that star. Of the Gargon. All this stuff is freaking astral myth. Not literal. Not to be taken literal. The Milky Way being a big part of it. Even our Germanic. Thor. Odin. Odin is Orion. The bull. Taurus is Thor. Freya. Frigg. Usually related with Venus. And so that each planet has a constellation. Or works through it. So just as it was done in Celtic, Germanic, Sumerian, Babylonian, Chaldean, therefore, Egyptian, Chinese, Japanese, Malaysian, just as these myths were all constructed from the stars, then placed upon humans, and a little bit of vice versa. And so Asgard's wall, see, there's the Milky Way as a wall, as a barrier that has to be broken through. All right, I'm going to end this now because I'm not sure if this works because I have absolutely not one viewer commenting anything. And that could just be me being an idiot boomer. No, I'm not. I'm not that